What's up guys, David here and welcome to the Fit Pro Daily. On this week's show we're talking all things networking. We're actually interviewing Chris Honor to come on and talk in greater detail about what networking means to him. To me initially I just thought networking was all about building connections, starting conversations and getting to know more people to build a wider community. But Chris takes it into much more depth. He gives us great insight and great ideas of how to use networking not only to build a better version of yourself but to connect with more people, how to open more doors for yourself, and how to really grow a fitness business using networking. Now, before we do dive into this week's guest interview, if you haven't already joined us inside our free Facebook group, then come and join us. Search on Facebook, FitPro Lead Gen with Dave, request to join and get access to even more guides, insights, top tips, guest interviews, and much, much more. Plus, also come in and join our wide network. Anyway, enough of me talking, let's dive into this week's guest interview. Morning guys and welcome to a brand new guest interview. On this week's episode we have Chris Honor all the way from, it looks like, sunny Rochdale. Is it sunny outside, is it?
Yeah, it's not too bad. We've had a great weekend. It's a little bit more chilly than it was over the weekend, but yeah, we're surviving.
Yeah. It's interesting when I speak to people kind of in that area, they kind of guess. I don't really know much about the area, but my second football team is Bury.
Oh, fair enough.
You have just come back, so I kind of know the Rochdale, Oldham, Burnley. I kind of know all that area of Greater Manchester. Cool. Okay, so networking, probably something that not a lot of us kind of do much of, or probably not really sure how to work it the most. But if we do dive into it, who is Chris? Like, how did you get started in all this?
Who is he? God, well, my background's varied. I almost fell into coaching by accident, to be fair. Basically, I come from a military background, so my dad's in the army, and my dad was in the army, I should say. So we moved around a lot every 3 years. So one of the big influences that we had in the military setting was sport. And anyone that's been in or around the military setting will know there's a big emphasis on community and a family feel. So I spent a lot of time, playing football, playing rugby, and also going into athletics, and sort of came to about 99. I was about 16 and playing football for the combined services, and there was no sort of player pathway. So the guy at the time, Alex Armstrong, who was at Southampton at the time, was he was good mates with my dad and said, look, does Chris fancy to earn a bit of money getting into coaching? And I thought, yeah, why not? Give it a go. We had we were in Gibraltar at the time, so it was great. Sun, sea, sangria, and a bit of soccer, or football. So sort of delved into football. And that was the start of what's been an absolutely fantastic 23, 24 years. At the age of 16, I moved away from home, went back to college, and one of the first things I did was got involved with Leicester City Football Club, who's is the team I support as well, and sort of fell in love with coaching, fell in love with football a lot more, and I did a bit of work experience through the club as part of my leisure and recreation course. So fast forwarding. A little bit after that, I then went on to do my coaching qualifications, mainly in football to start with. Ended up with my first permanent position at Cambridge United at 17, looking after the women's team. Did a bit of work in the academies, and I then went into the armed forces myself as a combat medic. So within the army, did 6 months active service in Iraq, which working on the blue light matrix and in the hospitals. But lo and behold, my secondary role with that was the fitness lead, and I ended up having to organise the inter-squadron competitions for the football, for a bit of road running. And although we're in a hostile condition, because you've got that love of sport and love of fitness, you forget about the hostilities that's going on and you just get on with it. And funnily enough, when I left the army after 8 years in 2011, I was put up for numerous promotion carders, and my second in command said, Private Honor, if you spent more time on your military career as you did in sport and your coaching, you'd have probably flew up the ranks. So lo and behold, I left the army to join York City Football Club, and without going into too much detail, I ended up in a really bad rut. I had a disagreement with the people I was working with at the time, and it led to me basically being in a really bad position financially. Had a big breakup with my partner at the time, and I was literally on bare bones. So fitness has always been a big passion. So I decided to train as a PT, set up my own business, which is now on Athletic, and went into the commercial gym in lifestyle fitness over in Barnsley. Built up a good reputation and a good rapport with weight loss clients, fat loss clients. But football's always been my passion, and alongside that, I'd be coaching at Barnsley Women or Barnsley Football in the community, and that's always sort of what I've done. And now my present day, which we'll probably touch upon a bit more in detail in a bit, and the position I'm in is due to my networking and doing sort of similar to what we're doing, Dave, here today, having a podcast conversation, is through having a conversation with a guy called Wayne Richardson, who I now work with. I'm now working with professional athletes on a day-to-day basis and helping them in their athletic development. So yeah, that's me without going on too much.
No, and it, like I say, it's all part of the story of where you are now, which is super important. And you can kind of see where network's going to fit into this in a lot of aspects from a lot of the stuff that
100%.
you said. So, for those that are unsure about the term network or networking, what does it mean to you? What does
What is it?
networking mean to you?
So networking is getting the right people on site, and surrounding yourself with the right people, because we live in a day now where there's so much influence through social media, and there's a lot of negative media about body composition. There's a lot of external pressures on who's going to be the next Cristiano Ronaldo, who's going to be the next Ellen White. There's a lot of miscommunication in terms of performance enhancing drugs. So it's really, really important that you get the right people around you and you are communicating, or you've got really good resources as well to surround you. Because one thing I found one trap I fell into very early in my PTing career was literally accept the first answer that came as gospel, whereas when you're then challenged on it, didn't really have a clue how to back it up. But as my time's gone on, and I've worked with the likes of Bradford Bulls, and where my time was when my knowledge was really sort of questioned, we then had to look into the work of Rodri Lloyd and those sorts of people to get a good knowledge. So networking is not only talking to people, but it's also having the right resources around you as well.
Okay, because that's it. I've never thought of it that way, of having the right resource. Like you say, network, you're just bringing people into your circle so you can use them in some sort of way, whether it's to generate leads or build a further network or referrals or whatever, like you say. But network also gives you an insight into more information and content and stuff that
100%.
maybe you didn't know about previously.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing as well is, who's in the position where you want to be right now. And people always look at me. I mean, I've worked for, without gloating, about 24 professional sports clubs now, and one of the biggest questions I get asked is, how have you been involved with these clubs? And the simple answer to that is I've reached out to these people, and I've just asked the question of, introduce myself, told them a bit about, who I am, what I want to achieve, and is there any openings or opportunities to shadow? I mean, it's a little bit harder now within the elite environment to go and shadow because of data confidentiality and things along those lines. But if you can speak to people working in academies and get a better understanding as to what they're doing and how they do it, you end up sort of building that familiarization, and you can sort of link it to your journey. And I got where I am today by doing I had a podcast trained on the TV. It was over on YouTube, where I was interviewing academy coaches, athletes, fitness professionals. And this is sort of where I identified the right things to train. So, for example, Rachel France at Biomechanics Education, I didn't really know a lot about biomechanics, but I knew it was it was like a big go-to world within the PT world at the time. So I just did my research, reached out to Rachel. Hi, Rach. Newly qualified PT as I was back then. I'd love to have a chat and find out a bit more about biomechanics. So, although I was educating myself, I was also projecting myself out there to whoever else wanted to know. And then through doing this, my guests would then be able to know about who this person was, and in turn, their audience would get to know a bit about who I was. So that's sort of how the network sort of grew. And then that led to me going on and doing a course through her and building up a really good relationship with her. Same with Tom Stringwell at what's now Your Gym Strength Sports Performance. I've had Tom as a coach, as a tutor, and we've all often spoke about ways of helping each other through mentoring and sort of through helping each other and introducing each other to different people. And I know he's worked with some clubs I've worked with in the past, and he's certainly put me in the right in contact with the right people as well. And then again through the networking, my background now is strongman, so I do a lot of strongman competitions. So as part of meeting Tom and reaching out to Tom, I was also able to benefit by going on to his workshops as well at a reduced rate and sometimes nothing. So it has its benefits, built, because it's not what you know, it's who you know. And if you know the right people, they're going to open up the doors for you tenfold. And as long as you know what your value is and you can give them something in return.
The famous saying, The famous saying. Okay, so there's going to be quite a few people watching this, and you mentioned commercial gyms earlier. How could you network if you're working in a commercial gym?
So commercial, it's knowing who your target audience are first and foremost. And I think with the commercial gym, you've got to ensure it's the right environment for you, because it's very, very easy as a fitness professional to go straight into the commercial gym and think that you're going to get your lead straight away, because you're not. You've got to be proactive and know exactly what people you want to work with in order for your business to sort of flourish. Because if you want to work with weight loss clients, then you've got to have a look and sort of observe what these certain people in the gym, what they're doing, and identify whether that's the right person for you. And if you feel it is, just go, greet them. Hi, how are you? I'm Chris. I'm one of the personal trainers here. How's your training going? And it's a little question like that that will get you. You'll get an idea as to whether or not they actually want training. So if they do, they'll engage with you a little bit more, and if they're not interested, they'll just ignore you. And that's happened plenty of times in the past. And in a commercial gym as well, get yourself involved with as many classes as you can as well. If you're into your high intensity interval training, look at your Les Mills classes, get involved. I get to understand how they work and run some classes that are similar to them. Get to know your clients, speak to them afterwards, greet them as they come in. Hi, how's your day been? It's very, very simple little things. But what you've got to be is patient, because Rome wasn't built in a day. You've got to allow yourself a good 6 to 8 weeks to build up your rapport, because I think it was said that you don't get a client overnight. You've got to have, I think it's five initial conversations with them, or 5 bits of contact with them. So the first one's a quick hi, how are you? Find out the name. They come in the next time. Oh, hi John, great to see you again. Have a good training session, and try and clock them on the way out, or try and watch what they're doing and see if there's any sort of technical advice you can give them. Who's on the deadlift platform? Have they got the right technique with the deadlifting? Have they got the chest up? Have they got the spinal mobilization? Or are they literally leaning over the barbell and putting a lot of pressure on the spine? And as a personal trainer in a commercial gym, you've really got to look and observe and actually care about the people that are in that gym, because ultimately, if you want to succeed in the commercial gym, you've got to make those members of the public and the members feel valued and that they're not just a number. Because I see it too often now especially in the gym I go to or started going to, is the PTs will just sit in the office, they'll come out and they'll just walk around and people don't see them. So they don't get the opportunity to engage in conversation because they're almost scared. So, take pride in your environment. If it means going around and putting dumbbells away, pick the dumbbells up, put them away, and then turn to that person next to it. Oh, how are you? Having a good day? Just strike that initial conversation up, because all it takes is a quick hello. And before you know it, you could end up with a 25, 30-minute conversation or even your first consultation.
Yeah, and it's such a key point. Like, a lot of stuff we talk about is just getting them through the door. Once you get them through the door, it should be easy enough. And this is what the conversation is doing. You're basically starting to help them open that door to whatever you have. If you just keep walking past these people, like you say in a commercial gym, you just walk past them and not say anything, they're not going to know your name, and they'll never reach out. If they ever do need help, they're not going to reach out because they don't even know you.
Exactly.
So, like you say, having these conversations is a great way. Putting some equipment away and someone's next to you, like, oh, who's left these dumbbells out again? Start
Exactly.
the conversation, super simple way. So when you're doing it face to face, we get it. That's relatively easy to start a conversation on new shoes today, or whatever, new haircut type of thing. Online, how have you found it online then? Because you said you've reached out and connected to some of these people. How are you starting conversations online?
Yeah, so online's a huge one for me. I mean, I'm a big advocate for LinkedIn, and I think it's a bit more difficult in a commercial gym, being it. So for myself, for example, wanting to work with athletes, unless I really get to know the person. So online, it's having a Facebook account, having a Facebook, having an Instagram account, and not necessarily going in and sell, but just giving them the information, knowing your avatar, so knowing who it is you want to work with, what are their struggles. And sometimes it's a case of just spending half an hour with a sheet of A4 paper and just asking, what is it this person actually needs, and then going on to places like LinkedIn and connecting with. So if you want to, so let's say you want to work with a corporate client and you want to work with busy dads, for example. You're then going to go online and you think, like, who works in who works in banks, who works in teachers, and you just basically do a search within LinkedIn and say, right, teachers in Manchester, teachers in Cardiff, things like that, and then it will come up with a list. And you do a bit of due diligence, and you just do a bit of research on that person, and think to yourself, is this a person going to be a good fit for me? And if you think they are, send them a connection request, have a quick introduction to who you are, tell them about a bit of value you can give. I can see you're a really busy person. How are you finding your work life balance? And more often than not, you'll get if it's someone that's interested, they will come back and say, oh, hi, nice, thanks for reaching out, everything's all right, but I'm actually struggling to get my training in. I don't find the time. So as a personal trainer, one of the first things you think of is, right, time management is obviously one of the key things. So you can think, right, tell me a bit about your day. So and then you can start sort of identifying the signs that aren't there. So it might just be a case of they get up at 8 o'clock, they don't have breakfast, and they're out the door by 8:30. So you could just give them a bit of advice and say, well, have you thought about, taking a banana and eating a banana on the way to work to give you a bit more energy? And just giving them these, it sounds silly, but you give them these most basic bits of information and just educate them on the benefits and the importance of it. And then over a period of time, you create that client buy-in, or you create that buy-in to you. And then from there, you end up building that relationship. Another
Nice.
thing on LinkedIn, sorry, bud.
No,
Another thing on LinkedIn is, again, broadcasting what you do. Tell people what you want to do. I want to work, I'm a coach. I want to work with busy dads, or I'm a coach and I work with athletes between the ages of 16 and 21. This is what I can offer you. And if people want to know a bit more about you, they'll come in and make conversation.
Yeah. So let's go back to those starting the conversations, because it's really easy to press connect, add friend, follow on all these social
Mm.
media channels. The person then accepts, follows you back on all this stuff, and then you're just like, what do I message them? How do I start that conversation? I don't want to sound sleazy. I don't want to like feel like I'm interrupting their day. I don't want them to be angry. What kind
Yeah.
of ways or intros to start the conversation can you have?
The first thing is obviously thanking them for the connection. So thanks for the connection. Love to know a bit more about you, and it starts from that, you know, and it's just that. So you're sort of like dangling the carrot in front of in front of the horse, so to speak. So you say, yeah, thanks for the connection. I see that you're currently a free agent footballer, for example. How are you finding your training? And it could be something as little as that. And then if you hear nothing back, you then go back and you can just do a follow up. How'd you see? And if you got my message last week, it'd be great to have a chat. And after it, once you've tried it, that if they come back to you, you know that they're a right fit. But then if they don't, then you sort of leave it a bit, and then you just basically say, right, well, I've tried with this person. Now's not the right time. And can you visit them again later on? And just keep an eye. It's almost like scouting a little bit. So you're keeping an eye on what they're doing, what their activities are, and seeing if there's anything, seeing if they're actually wanting any help as well.
And I like that section you said a minute ago in the last bit was broadcast what it is you do. I think a lot of us don't do that enough, especially if you're quite in a specific niche. You don't explain. Maybe you talk about why you should squat and why you should eat this way, or why you should exercise, or why you should sleep more, but you don't say, I categorically help busy dads feel like they're back in their 20s or something.
Exactly that. Yeah, I mean, it's pivotal, especially within strength and conditioning, and we get it a lot. A lot of the athletes I work with now are youth athletes between the ages of 12 and 19. Sometimes we'll have pre-season, we'll have the elite players coming in. But one of the biggest things is people. We get there's a lot of external influence nowadays, because especially with parents, when it comes to youth children or to youth athletes, it's a tricky one to sort of go into, because obviously as a parent, everyone wants their child to have the best opportunities to develop. But one of the things that they don't understand, and this goes back to networking and talking a bit, is the benefits of strength training on speed and power development, and how it can actually help them with their athletic performance going forwards. And it's knowing the right people to speak to, because one thing we always get is, we charge quite a premium rate where we are, and we'll always get the notion of, your small group training is charging £10 an hour, but I can go to John down the road who's only a fiver. Well, that's great, but has John got this X amount of performance, got the experience that we've got? What research have they done? What results have they got? And it's really, really important that, again, you're getting the message out, and you're knowing your worth, and that you're getting and attracting the right people, because it's very, very easy to just get anyone and everyone in.
Yeah,
Hope that makes sense.
no, that makes total sense. So let's go back to something you were saying earlier. You were connecting with certain people on Facebook that kind of match your audience and stuff. And then you've mentioned paying attention and then engaging in conversation. So I'm guessing if someone does accept your friend request or follow or whatever, and you're not sure how to have or start that conversation, paying attention to some of the posts that they write about, engaging with
Definitely.
some of their posts by just liking or commenting, and then further down the line, then reach out.
100%. You almost don't want to be creepy. You do want to sort of monitor it a bit. And the first thing should always be a case of, great to connect, hope you're well, and leave it at that, I would say. And then you just do a bit of due diligence on this person, and you can, because you tend to know whether they're in there. And I get it all the time with footballers. I'll get bombarded about, oh, can you get me into a club? Can you help me do this? Can you help me do that? Well, I can, but have you read? But then you think, have you actually read my profile? Do you know what I'm about? And it's the same with some coaches as well. Can you help me do this? Well, I can, but it's not my focus. So, we spend a lot. One thing you got to do as well is you got to know who your audience is and know who you are. I mean, I'm a big, when it comes to business, for example, I'll only follow a certain amount of people, because if people are in my inbox every 2 minutes saying, "I want to sell you this program, I want to sell you that program," I'll bin them off straight away, because it has a negative impact on my mindset, because it just goes to show that, all they want you for is your money, and they don't want to give you that a bit of advice. You know what I mean? it's one of those. So you got to make sure that you're not doing the same as a coach.
And that takes us back then. So when you mentioned about that, was surrounding yourself with the right people. Like you say, I'm guessing it has a massive effect, especially on your energy and your mindset and so much more. But it also puts you in good circles and good networks as well, where they can refer on from there.
100%. I mean, you've got. I mean, where I'm at the minute at Richardson Sport, and Wayne, who I work with, he's got a very, very good reputation with elite athletes, and we work out of the National Taekwondo Centre. So we're brushing shoulders with Olympians on a day in, day out basis, and just being in that environment, when you show people on Instagram that's where you are, people automatically get that sense that you are the best thing since sliced bread, because you have got photos with Papi Cisse, or you've got photos within that Olympic environment. So I mean, going back to how I got to where I am now, it was literally reaching out to Wayne, finding out a bit about him, getting him on a podcast. And, if any fit pros that are struggling with networks, what I would say is, start yourself a podcast up and reach out to those that you feel is an authority figure within the fitness industry, and just ask them to come on, and, can they spare half an hour of the time? And then in return, what you will do for them is you'll give them the opportunity to promote an upcoming course they've got, or promote them a little bit. Because through building up this relationship with Wayne now, I went through a period where I had my own gym, accepted that my gym wasn't working. So I then reached out to him and thought, do you know what? He's in a position where I want to be.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask him, is there any opportunity to come and shadow? And 11 months later, I've worked with international footballers, I've worked with international rugby players, helping players go from grassroots coaching to improving their acceleration, deceleration, who are now progressing. And I've actually been able to take my former clients who were basically training on a school field, for example, to now train in an elite environment. And in terms of their mindset, it creates that buy-in as well. So it's knowing that you're in that right environment, because it's very, very easy and this is one thing I found at the beginning as a fitness professional when you're just starting out, is going into that gym and thinking that commercial gym is the be all end all, because it's not. Now, if you want to go in and you want to work with fat loss clients and general public, it's a great setting. But if you want to work with elite athletes, or you want to work with more of an athlete, you've got to ensure that the environment that you're working with has the right people with you. Because for me, working in the commercial gym, I had other PTs that were on the phone all the time, walking around their hands in the pockets, didn't have the same values and beliefs as myself. So I had to get away from that environment, because it was really, really driving me up the wall. And because you're judged on the people that you're with. So being with someone like Wayne now and being around elite athletes all the time, people look at you and think he's associated with elite athletes, so he must be good. So,
and like you say, the broadcast, what you do massively stands out even more then as well.
100%, because it just could be a case of, so going back to what I did with Tom with going and doing one of his courses, I went on his course, enjoyed it. So the first thing I'm going to do is go onto social media. Just a quick thanks to Tom for having us on the Olympic weightlifting workshop. Really enjoyed it, and from him giving me that free session, he's gained two new learners, because referred on. And it's one of those roundabouts, going back to, it's not who you know, it's what you know. And especially in sport, it's a huge thing in sport, because once you've been at a football club, you want, you're not, you are bigger than the crest that you wear on your chest. And while it's great working with sports clubs, again, you've got to make sure that your beliefs and your values are aligned, because more often than not, within a professional sports club, they're completely opposite. So
Nice. Okay, so to kind of finish off nicely now then, is there anything you think we've missed when it comes to networking and how we should be networking and what networking is?
So first and foremost, know your self-worth. So know what it is that you bring to the table, because if you don't know what you bring to the table, you're gonna end up giving out a confused message. And this is something I've done a lot in the past, very, and it's kicked me up the bum a bit. So if you've got a clothing business, you've got an online coaching business, and you've got a face-to-face business, separate them, because you need to know, again, you need to know how your audience are going to get to you. So if you're going on a face-to-face PT business page, for example, and you're advertising your clothing range, people are going to be like, is he a coach, or is he a clothing or is he a clothing entrepreneur? Because once you've got that client into your business, that's when you can then start to upsell with your clothing, or on that side of it. So try not to confuse your audience on that side, and know what your skill set is as well, and try and make yourself feel uncomfortable a little bit, because let's face it, reaching out to these people who you feel are an authority figure is very, very daunting. But once you speak to these people, it's very rewarding at the same time. And, again, going back to podcasts and Facebook Lives, I've reached out to people I used to watch playing football as a kid. I've got their autographs in a drawer somewhere. And just by reaching out to these people and, telling them a bit about yourself and about myself and what I want to do, I've had the privilege to work with these people and still speak to them on a daily basis, because I was willing to make myself uncomfortable, and because I knew what I wanted. And know your self-value. Never devalue yourself. And if somebody looks at you and thinks, well, do you know what, you're not actually that good at this, or you're not good at that, you need to get rid of that person from your network, because they're not worth your time. And the more time you spend wanting to please other people, the longer it's going to take for you to get where you want to be, because your confidence is going to take a huge knock with that. And sometimes it might mean only having like a couple of hundred followers on Instagram or on Facebook, but it's better to have a couple of hundred followers on Instagram and Facebook that are the right fit for you, than having any randomer that's going to come in there and knock you down. So
Nice. And it's strange, like a lot of people will think of networking as just building connections and getting to know people, but you've outlined it and explained it in such a unique way that it's more than just adding people as a friend. There is so much that goes into creating a great networking strategy.
100%.
Chris, so for anybody that's watching this then, who maybe wants to get a football team or wants to know a little bit more about what it is you do and stuff, how can people reach out and have a chat with you then?
Yeah, no problem. So first thing they can do is they go on LinkedIn, follow me, Chris Honor, on LinkedIn, Honor HONOR. More than happy to connect on there. If you're on Facebook, Honor Athletic on Facebook, feel free to reach out on there. And and in terms of if you want to get a football team, make sure it's the right club for you. Do your research. If it's a parent that's watching it for their 5-year-old, make sure it's the club that's charter standard. Make sure that they have the right values and beliefs as you have. And if you're an older athlete, 16 to 18, and you've just been released by a club, don't necessarily go down the football agent route, because it's not an important thing. Again, make sure you've got the right people fighting your corner. Showcase what it is that you do. Create a video highlights reel. And again, this is something that for personal trainers, if you video your, I said earlier about having your phones on you is a really bad thing. But if you've got your phone on you as a PT, make sure that you are videoing your athletes or your clients and giving them feedback, and then use that as a case study to then highlight what it is that you do and highlight your findings on that client. So for squat, for example, if you're videoing your client side on and you can see that they've got butt wink, talk about butt wink and use that as a selling point, because people will want to find out a little bit more the more you talk about it.
Chris, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for coming on. Hopefully we'll get you back on in a couple of months' time and you can explain networking in even more greater detail further down the line, and we can see how far you progress with some of your athletes as well. But Chris, I appreciate you coming on and we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks so much for having me on, David. Much appreciated. Thanks very much.
No worries. We'll speak to you soon. Thank you. Okay, so that was Chris giving us a great insight into networking. And it was really interesting, some of the stuff that he was saying, especially around starting conversations, connecting with people, looking at people who are in the position that you want to be with now, looking at people who have influence on the type of people that you want to work with, and seeing how you can start conversations with them, start utilising them more as referrals, or to really start building that conversation, to build a know, like and trust, to bring those people into yourself. But also telling the world more about what it is you do, being actually specific about who you work with, insights behind the scenes, and so much more, so people can really build this big picture of who you are, what it is you do, how you can help them, all by bringing them into your network. Before we do leave though, if you haven't already joined us inside our free Facebook group, head over to Facebook, search for FitPro Lead Gen with Dave, request to join and get access to much, much more. Anyway, I'll speak to you all soon. Cheers.